In this chapter, we're going to discuss how to use Python to work with general internet resources such as FTP, email, and newsgroups. This is an introduction to using Python with the internet before we get to the real nitty-gritty of the course, where we talk about how to use Python with the World Wide Web. So we're going to start off in this first lesson with seeing how to use Python with FTP, which stands for the File Transfer Protocol. In the early days of the internet, before there was a web, the only way to really transfer files was by using FTP. And FTP allowed you to make a connection to a site's FTP server, where you then either uploaded files to the server or downloaded files from the server onto your own computer. Nowadays, FTP is hidden in other ways of transferring files using the web, but people still sometimes do use FTP, so it's worthwhile to see how to do that in Python. So I'm going to start off showing you just in general how FTP works by sending and receiving a file from my own computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into an FTP server that I have an account on at a college where I teach. So to connect to the UALR FTP server, I type FTP www.ualr.edu. It connects to the server and then asks me for my username and password. So I'll type those in, and then my password. And now I'm connected. So I can do a directory to see what files are there. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get a file from the FTP server. So to do that, we just type get and the name of the file that we want. And then it tells us that it's received. And it's that simple. If I want to upload a file, I can do a put. So here I'm going to put a file that I already have on my hard drive, test.py, just a Python program. And that will send it up to the server. I can see that it's there by typing dir to see that the file's been received. So that's how you send and receive files using the bare FTP service. Now let's see how to do that in Python. So let me clear the screen. I'm going to delete a couple of files. Now let's begin. So the first thing we want to do is see how to get a directory. So we're going to create a file called getdir.py. And to get the directory, first thing we have to do is import a library called FTP library. This will provide us with commands for connecting to a FTP server and sending and receiving files. So ftplib is a very important file that we need. First thing we're going to do is we're going to create our connection. Our connection gives us the ability to talk to the FTP server. The way we do that is we create a connection object, and then we tell it what FTP server we want. Then once we've connected to the server, then we can provide a login. So here's the login, username and password. And now we're connected. So to see a directory, one way we can do that is to create a data structure, a list, to receive data. And then we're going to use an ftplib command, dir, and tell it to append the directory listing to our data file. And at that point, we're finished. So we'll quit. And then we can look at the directory listing in the data by having a simple for loop that prints out the directory listing line by line. So let's save that file, go back to our command prompt, and we'll type getdir.py. It pauses while it makes the connection. And there's the directory that we saw earlier when I was connected directly to FTP. So getdir provides us with a simple way to retrieve a directory from an FTP server. And there's a look at the program one more time. Now, having done that, what I'd like to do next is see how to retrieve the contents of a file using Python. So we're going to create a new program. Let's clear the screen first. And this time we're going to call this one getfile.py. We begin it just like we did before. Import ftplib. And this time we're going to also import the sys library so that we can do something with our system. But what I want to do with sys is I want to be able to specify a file to get on the command line when I run the Python script. To do that, I need to be able to get the command line argument and put it into the Python program. So we're going to do that using a sys command called argv. What happens is when you create command line arguments to a Python program or script, it stores the whole command line in an array. That array is called argv. And what I want to do is I want to get the second element of that array, which will be the file name I'm asking for, and put it in a variable called file name. The first element in the array will be the file name as we try to run the program. You'll see how that works in just a minute. My next step then is to connect, so we'll do that the same way we did before, and then to log in. And this looks exactly the same as it did the last time. And we'll provide the password. Now, once we've made the connection, we're ready to retrieve the file contents of the file we're trying to get. So the way we do that is we type connect.retr for retrieve, and then lines, because we're going to retrieve lines of the file. And we do that by passing in an FTP command, retr, concatenated with the file name to make that one long string. And then once we've retrieved all the lines, we can quit. So this is a very simple script. And let's see how it works. So we'll save the file, go back to our command prompt, and we're going to type getfile.py index.htm. That's one of the files stored on that FTP server. And there are the contents. So all we have to do is connect to the FTP server, log in correctly, and then retrieve the lines of the file that we want to look at. So retrieving a file from FTP is done very simply. And here's the script one more time. It took us longer to connect and get the command line than it did to actually perform the FTP command. Now let's look at one more example. This time we're going to put a file to the server, and we're going to do that using an FTP command called store, S-T-O-R. We'll call this program put file, and once again we're going to import ftplib and sys, and then our program begins the very same way. Get the file name from the command line arguments, connect to the server, log in once we're connected, then we have to do one more thing before we're ready to actually upload the file. We have to open the file that we're going to send up to the server in the proper format. And the best format to use is RB, which stands for uploaded as a binary file. You can have lots of trouble trying to upload as a text file, so it's always worthwhile to try and upload as a binary file so that RB argument opens the file as a binary file. Then once we do that, we're ready to actually put it to the file using a command called store binary with the FTP command store and the file name. And one other argument, almost forgot it, the file handle, which we created in the line just before. Once we've done that, we're ready to quit. And once again, we have a very short script to make this work. So let's send up a file. We're going to put file, and let's put the getdir file that we created earlier. Let's send that up to the server. We can tell if it's there or not by running our getdir command locally. And there we see that it did send getdir up. We can verify that it sent the contents by retrieving the contents of the file. Oh, I made a little mistake there. Do that again. And there's our script from earlier. So once again, to put a file to your server, or to store a file on the server, you import the proper libraries, grab the file name from the command line arguments, connect to the server, open the file using the RB argument, and then call the store binary function with the proper string, STOR, concatenated with the file name, and then the file handle, and then quit when you're finished. In the next lesson, we're going to look at another example of using the internet with Python when we're going to work with email.